You messaged me on Facebook a little while ago. Do you remember that? I didn't realize until I saw that because that's your Facebook photo. You're like, hey, we need a pro DM to come run a game for us. Do you know anything about that? I'm like, yeah, I'm in charge. And then
That's right.
And then you acted like really embarrassed.
I did.
And we're out.
We're here today with Dax Levine at the Dead Wars event on day 2. Dax, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing here for Dead Wars?
Right now, I'm just chilling.
Just chilling?
Yesterday, I had a lot of stuff to do, and it was a very stressful day. Today is way more relaxed, and so thanks for inviting me to come sit on this comfy couch.
Fantastic. Do you want to tell everyone what you did? What was your role yesterday?
Yesterday was part 1 of this massive adventure, and I was the head dungeon master for the entire event.
Wow. So you were on stage the entire time?
Not the entire time, because I'm not really the star of the show. The star are the DMs who are running the adventure. So I was there not just making announcements, but bringing everybody together, giving them a narrative that connects all the tables together.
Wow.
Right? Giving them objectives and giving them a reason to care about what's happening on stage and how it's all one interconnected story instead of, 200 separate stories. It's all connected. So I was there as the head dungeon master, and it was a lot of fun. It was so exhausting, but it was a lot of fun.
I was going to ask, so compared to DMing, a single table, what are some of the differences, the challenges that you had to deal with DMing 500 people, I think is what?
500 was yesterday. When we did this a year ago, I did 1,237.
That is true, because it was all in one day.
Yep.
Okay, so kind of what's different about DMing a large group like that?
Okay, so let's compare it to a small group. I love reading my players' body language, getting feedback from them, trying to make sure everyone has a moment to shine, to be the hero, to have that brush with death and then come more victorious after the end of it. I can't do that when you have 1,000 people, so I've delegated a lot of that to these captains that go around and are over certain tables and are checking the pulse and giving support and help to the dungeon masters. Because again, they're the heroes.
Right.
Oh, I'm just there to tie it all together.
Right.
And then those captains report to me, and the decisions and the successes and the failures that other people make determine what happens on stage. If certain heroes or villains are destroyed based off of the decisions that are made. And then I have to bring that to life on stage, and we'll act out scenes, we'll act out skits, I'll do impromptu monologues to make it feel connected.
Wow, that just feels like so much more pressure to me, I think, that DMs are known for having to kind of, work on the fly and improv when things don't go the way that you expected. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, can you kind of give me a gauge of how much more difficult it was, or more stressful, or was it for you?
Luckily, this isn't my first time doing it.
You're a professional, right? So yeah, exactly.
Last year, so stressful, and I can't believe we pulled it off last year, but we did, and it was amazing. And we've repeated that multiple times. We ran that same adventure at FanX a few months later with a smaller group, a more intimate group, and that was a lot of fun. And then I ran a big, at Dragonsteel Con last year, we did a big Stormlight Archive connected game with 100 players.
Cool. For those of you who don't know what Stormlight Archive is, that is Brandon Sanderson's, I think, crowning jewel. So if you don't know what that is, check that out.
Check that out. Come to Dragonsteel Nexus this year. I'll be there.
So what about preparation? Was there anything you had to prepare, or because I know that the adventure was written for you. Was there anything you had to prepare outside of that?
So much. So Johnny Jensen is the one who wrote the adventure last year, Dead Wars Part 1, and he wrote last night's adventure as well.
Yeah.
And so we already had a great working relationship. And so he had written up these stat blocks and writing the adventure, and essentially the instructions for the dungeon masters at the table. So they have their packets and they know where to follow along. And so I worked with him and with that script to figure out how we can make it more emotional, how we can make it so people see themselves on stage. Last year we decided to bring to life a goddess who was mentioned in it and have someone playing her and acting out on stage. Well, I got to play Vecna. And we had these confrontations on stage where We were yelling at each other. We were fighting. I ripped her eye out and put it in my head. Not for real, but, for pretend.
Oh, darn, not
But
real.
it was a really cool scene. And eventually, Eldath, who was broken and wounded, ended up defeating Vecna. And people got to see themselves in Eldath. And we wanted to recreate that sort of emotional feeling. So this year, I had these 4 captains that were representing this assault we were having on the city that had been overrun by darkness and trying to reclaim it. And the captains would go around inspiring the tables, healing people, helping them out. But one by one, the villain, Skodos, played by Wyatt, who was great, started killing the captains and transforming them into his minions and sending them against me.
I saw that.
So,
we saw that. And we did meet with Wyatt and talk about that too.
Yeah, so we had this whole drama unfolding, and depending on the reactions of the crowd and the events of the game, we were changing scenes. Like, 20 minutes before we went on stage, we're like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to block it? How can we give everybody the best story possible? Luckily, I have a great team who's awesome at improv, awesome at taking direction, and we were able to feed off of each other's ideas.
Right. So we did hear a little bit from Wyatt. I think it was somewhere towards the end, maybe the 3rd act, that there was like a major change.
Yeah.
And I think you all had to meet and say, can we do this? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So what the idea was is Wyatt, or Lord Skodos, Prince Skodos, was going to kill each of the captains one by one and bring them back as his augments, his minions, his servants. And then those same captains were going to cause chaos on the battlefield. Instead of helping people, they were going to tempt them to sin and do selfish things.
Right.
And so one of the players was going to represent the sin of envy. And so I have this scene with him on stage where he's demanding a promotion, and I tell him, no, you can't have a promotion. We need to win the battle first. And then Skodos appears and says, you're not getting the recognition you deserve. You're not giving the authority and power that's rightfully yours. Let me give you that power. So he's tempting him, right?
Yes.
Tempting him to join. And the plan was that he was going to succumb to temptation and turn. But everyone who had grown emotionally attached to this captain during the course of the game was like, no, don't do it, please, we're your vanguard, don't do this.
Oh,
and so
man.
people were so emotionally invested in the scene, they just decided, okay, we're gonna resist temptation. And they came off stage and they're like, Dax, did we do the right thing? And I'm like, I think that's what the crowd wanted, but let's change the next scene because of it.
Right.
So Skodos didn't give the others a chance to resist him. He just stabbed him in the back and fought them in one-on-one. And then we had all the captains gang up on the captain who resisted.
Wow.
They started beating him up, which wasn't in the original script. They start beating him up and getting ready to take them off. And then I come and I rescue him and I try to redeem everyone and then bring in Skodos. You should watch it. It's great. But yeah, we had to make these changes based on the feedback we were getting from the crowd and just kind of the vibe of the scene. And the team did such a good job adapting and changing, and I think we told a stronger story because of that.
I think so too, and I think it's a big testament to the skills that you have as a DM and the skills of the actors to be able to pivot like that on such a short notice for such a big event instead of going the easy route of, well, we've already kind of scripted this and we kind of know where this is going. I think it's such a testament to how you guys are able to adapt.
Yeah, and we had some ideas that were too big, too ambitious. We were gonna plan multiple different endings depending on how much damage was dealt. We have to figure out what's the most important thing. What emotions do we want people to feel, and then focus on making that as good as possible. So we had to pare down some of our ideas, but that allowed some of our other ideas to really flourish.
Right. I think, gosh, that is just the perfect example, I think, of how a D&D or tabletop game should run, is being able to adapt to something like that.
You must adapt or die.
So I doubt any of our audience would not know who you are, but can you tell a little bit just about who you are outside of Dead Wars?
Outside of Dead Wars, so for the last 4 years, I've been a full-time professional dungeon master. I started the business February 2020, hoping it would work out, and then March 2020 happened, which was perfect timing.
Oh my
for me.
gosh.
Absolute perfect timing.
Right time, right place.
Right? I could not have been luckier if I'd have tried. But I was working really hard at this, and I started running 1 game a week, 2 games a week, 3 games a week. Eventually, I had to go to my wife and say, hey, I'm really busy running all these D&D games. can I quit my day job? Pretty please. And she's like, okay, this is the budget. This is what we've got to do. And I hit that goal like 4 or 5 months into it. Quit my day job, and I've been doing this full time for the last 4 years.
Wow. Folks, you guys need to take some inspiration from that if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Yes, you can be like me and play so much D&D you have to pay taxes on it.
Fantastic. Where can people find you? Your, social medias?
First thing you can do is Google Professional Dungeon Master, and I'm usually the first thing that comes up.
Really?
It's Dungeon Master Direct. Yeah, we nailed
Wow,
that.
what an accolade. Google it and
Google
I come up.
Yeah, no, or just go to dungeonmasterdirect.com. You can see events that we have coming up. You can hire us for an online game or an in-person game. We're running a cruise next year. We're doing a 3-day haunt this year. I'm running a summer camp for teens. It's going to be a real busy year.
Right, so do you want to talk a little bit about that cruise?
The cruise, yes. Are you coming?
I would love to.
You should come.
I would love to.
So we were talking before we got on camera about a mutual friend of ours, Dan Wells.
Yes.
You haven't met him yet, but
haven't.
you will.
I will. It's
You will.
on my list. It is on my list. So for those of you who don't know, Writing Excuses is a podcast for people who want to be writers, but they're also kind of nerds and like to play tabletop, so there's a little bit of crossover.
Yeah, and you're going to the Writing Excuses retreat later this year.
I
We
am.
were talking about that, and
Yeah.
we realized, oh, you're doing this retreat? Well, I know those people. They're cool. So anyway,
Yes.
Dan Wells is also a professional game master. He's part of my team, and we wanted to do, he's already done some retreats based off of the Writing Excuses retreats, but with no writing.
Really?
Imagine just gaming, right?
Oh, gaming retreats.
Because he would game at these Writing Excuses retreats and be upset that he didn't game as much as he wanted to.
Right.
So he just started running them just for gaming. And so we joined up, and we're like, okay. He had already done a couple of these, and he brought me on, and you know me, I'm like, okay, how can we make this as big and awesome as possible?
Right.
So we are going on a Royal Caribbean cruise.
You're going to be on this cruise? You're going to be part of
Yeah,
this cruise?
I'm going to be on this cruise, as is the rest of the Dungeon Master Direct team. We're going to be playing board games, ttrpgs, doing murder mysteries, while also enjoying the Caribbean, right? We have the entire convention center on the cruise ship dedicated just to all of these games.
Wow.
There'll be scheduled games, there'll be pickup games, not to mention all the food you can eat, excursions on land, the pool.
Wait. Hold on. Wow. Okay, so this is a gaming retreat.
Yes, this is a gaming
and it's
retreat.
a cruise.
And a cruise.
Is there like unlimited alcohol?
If you purchase that, yeah, there is
Really?
a pass you can get for that direct through
I don't think I can
Royal
imagine
Caribbean.
anything better. Like, what could make that better? What
could make that better? Eating steak.
Please tell me you have
Yeah,
steak there.
there's
Good.
gonna be.
All right.
I went on a Royal Caribbean cruise about 1.5 years ago with my family, and I think I gained 10 pounds on that cruise. It was so good. It's like, oh, I can't decide which dessert I want. I'll have both, and all the food is included.
Wow. Okay, so I feel like this is better than D&D in a castle, right? Because that's like, it's a week long, yeah, but like you're just playing one set of things,
You can
right?
go outside. You can
Yeah.
get sunshine. You can, when we get into port, you can go into Mexico and actually touch grass.
Oh my gosh.
You can explore different countries, and then you get back on the cruise ship and you can still game as much as you want. We've got 24-hour access to the gaming room. There's an escape room on board. There's laser tag on board. There's ice skating on board. There's all sorts of things. So you have no excuse to be bored when you're on
Right.
this cruise.
Fantastic. All right, folks. So you need to check out Dax Levine and go on this cruise. Do all the things that he's doing, because apparently he's on the trajectory, man.
We were having so much fun planning the cruise. We were joking about, what if we did one that was all horror themed? And we were just talking, and we decided to do some research. And in Salt Lake City, there is a hotel that's over 100 years old, and it's very haunted. It's called the Peary Hotel. So we made some calls, and next thing we knew, we were planning another retreat for this October at the Peary Hotel in downtown Salt Lake.
So that's very soon, guys. You guys need to get in on that.
It's a lot more affordable than the cruise, but it's also going to be catered. It's going to be very spooky. We've got the ballroom open until 2 a.m. each night, so we're going to be playing very spooky games. Vampire the Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu, Dread,
Oh, perfect.
Ravenloft, and then at 2 a.m. you got to go back to your room down these dark hallways. In
Purposely
these
leave the
creepy
lights
rooms. Yes. I went and did a tour, and the housekeeping staff were like, yeah, we always have to vacuum extra salt off of this threshold because people will salt their thresholds because they don't want to be possessed in the middle of the night. So it's going to be very cool, very spooky.
Very cool, very spooky.
Not to
folks.
mention Dan is a New York Times bestselling horror author.
Yes, yes, right? So, okay, all right. You can do all this with Dax and with a spooky horror author.
Yes, and the ghosts who still never checked out of the Peary Hotel.
Right, right. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us for this
you.
short little interview. We're definitely going to have to get together and maybe do a longer form interview.
Absolutely.
So everybody keep an eye out for that and go check out Dax on all his socials.
And all of Amber's stuff, too.
Oh, thank you. All right, nice meeting you.
You too.